Before we start this episode, I wanted to tell you that if you're looking for free dog training courses, you can take the Victoria Stilwell Academy's most popular free course, Building Your Dog's Confidence, right now by going to vsdogtrainingacademy.com. That's vsdogtrainingacademy.com. Okay, now on with the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zoom and welcome to the podcast. We're so excited that you are here today because I'm back with the team. We're talking about building meaningful connections with our dogs. And as you join us, I also like to say welcome to Ali, Tara, Maya, Tiffany, Laura, Jamie, and Wendy. These are our dog training and behavior gurus, and they are going to help me explore building connections with your dogs. Welcome to everybody who's joining us now live and to everybody who's listening to us on the podcast. We really appreciate the privilege of your time. And I think this is, as I say, every time that we all get together, this is a really important one, but it's really important. And I want to start off with a story. And it was while I was filming It's Me or the Dog, I've always had this irritation with cell phones. And when I started It's Me or the Dog, which, by the way, everybody's 20 years ago, I had the idea 20 years ago. And then we started filming in March 2005. But I had the idea in 2004. But my gosh, that's a long time. And I feel quite old. But I always had, even then when we had cell phones and we didn't have smartphones, but we just had cell phones. Even then I had this thing of like, when you come to class or when we're filming, or you are not on your phone. And I remember that I think I was filming in New York or we were on Staten Island or somewhere around there. And I was with a lovely family, but the dad was welded to his phone. And I was doing a really cool exercise with the kids and the dog in this great training space that we had been given. And the guy was on his phone again. Well, I am quite tolerant and I am very compassionate. And of course, It's Me or the Dog. You know, they always wanted me to be quite brusque because that's sort of what the character is. And I am a plain talker, but I'm also a very compassionate person and I want to be diplomatic. But I kind of had a sense of humor failure over this one because it was about the 10th time that this guy was on his phone. And so you'll be able to see the episode where I basically stop and say, could you please get off your phone? Please. I am teaching your kids and your dog, but you, some really important stuff. So please give me just give me some of your time so that you'll be able to know what to do because you're going to be the person training your dog, not your kids. And I felt invalidated. I felt salty, as my daughter sometimes calls me. She's like, "Oh, you're salty today, Mama." But yeah, I was salty because I was just offended by it. I thought that he just wasn't doing right by his kids or his dog. Something else was taking. And then, of course, we all know that sometimes you have to take business calls. But this was not a business call. This was not. And I know it because I heard it. Okay. Now let's look at it from my dog's point of view. I wonder about this when I'm taking my dog for a walk and all of a sudden my phone rings or I get a text. And that's it. I'm lost to the walk and I'm on the phone because I have to answer it, of course, because it rang. And that's it. That's me and my dog disconnected. And so I have to say, I put up my hand, and even though, no, I do not like phones at the dinner table. I do not like people texting. It is a bugbear of mine. And especially when my daughter, who's like they're young, they're just texting all the time. Oh, it drives me crazy. I'm like, you put your phone away. What do our dogs think of us when we're walking or we're playing with them or we're teaching them and then the phone goes and then all of a sudden we disconnect? We're not part of their world anymore. And that's what I wanted to talk about that this week of like, yeah, we get angry, but do you think our dogs have a right to be annoyed at us when we too disconnect on our mobile phones? Allie, I hope I'm not alone in this. I know, and I know that I'm not the only person who's on their mobile phone when I'm taking my dog for a walk.
No, I'm a big, this is a big pet peeve of mine, is just when I'm driving around and I see people walking their dogs and they're talking on the phone. Because I think, so my dog Klaus, I feel, this is me anthropomorphizing, gets offended that all of a sudden he'll just start pulling, whereas he wasn't pulling before. It's probably because he knows I'm not paying attention. And he'll just start doing whatever it is he wants to do, like jump up on people, or he'll start booping me with his nose of like, hey, pay attention to me. And I've just noticed this over time that I do want to be present with him. And I think about how much of the day he gets where I totally just focus on him. I mean, nothing else is going on. The TV's not going, phone isn't going. Like, when does he get that time? So I use walks as that time that I want him to be totally, I want to be totally focused on him. Now, what's interesting is I recently got married, and my husband does not share these views, and he tends to do everything else but pay attention to the dog when he's walking them, or he takes them out to our little dog run out here, and he's on his phone. He's playing games, he's talking to other people. And at first I was kind of annoyed, but then part of me wonders, Victoria, if I play devil's advocate here, of do the dogs kind of actually like it? Because then they get to do their own thing. And it's almost like they get to zone out, he gets to zone out, and they get to sniff, they get to pull, they get to do what they really want to do. So I kind of see both sides of it, of that one, if you allow your dog, there's a difference between walking and talking on the phone and then pulling your dog along, right? So that not only are you not paying attention to them, but you're also not letting them get to do what they want to do. So there's that. But my husband kind of does the other thing, whereas he lets them have a long line and he just follows them wherever they go. And he's just kind of like a sail behind them talking to somebody else. So I think there's kind of two sides to that coin, but I know that Klaus really likes it when I'm tuned in to him and we talk and I give him cues, and I try and have that two-way communication with him on walks.
Because if you're anything like me, I mean, a lot of us work from home. We do our different traveling for business at certain times, but most of the work happens at home. So really that walk is our ability to have that connection, because right now I'm doing this, recording this podcast and on the Zoom, and Jasmine is on the sofa and she's just lying down, kind of waiting for me to be done so that we can go outside. And then when we go outside, then that's our time. But if I receive a business call outside, I have to take that business call. Well, I guess I don't have to take it, but I'm sure she would much appreciate, or just a little bit of my time, right? A little bit of my focus. And sometimes I go throughout the day and I'm like, I feel guilty because I actually have not focused on Jasmine as much as I want to focus, because my brain is so taken up with different things. Tiffany, did that happen to you? I hope I am not alone. I know I'm not alone in this.
You're definitely not alone. I think it's, all of this multitasking and digital world is affecting us on so many levels as humans. But especially since we're here to talk about our dogs, I think about just as Allie mentioned, how much time are you just spending with your dog, allowing that connection to happen? And because I happen to have a senior dog right now, it's especially hitting home. Obviously, they have very short lives to begin with. And, when I find myself zoning out on scrolling on Pinterest, recipes I'll probably never make and home decor I'll probably never accomplish, and I look over at this sweet senior dog who's literally staring at me, it hits me, oh my gosh, I am missing out on this opportunity to spend time, and I don't know how much time I have left. So it really, I think every one of us struggles with that balance, and whether it's with our significant others, our children, our dogs, anyone in our lives, our parents, as our parents age, just trying to figure out and balance that time that you have and where you're going to spend it, and especially that connection, so that they know that you want to spend time with them and you want to focus on them. Absolutely.
And Wendy, how important is it that we build this connection with our dogs and our kids as our sort of our child rearing guru? That you understand child development and how important that is. That we are plugged in and connected.
Right. It's enormously important. It's so helpful, and it gives us so many opportunities if we connect with them to grow together. I was just thinking about this recently, how whenever I come in the house with my dog and he stops and he's kind of hopeful, maybe there's a treat involved, he's waiting to see, but usually I'll just lean down and give him a little pat. And he seems very happy with this. And it's like this validation, this moment of connection. It doesn't have to be a big moment of connection. It's just like, okay, I'm here, you're here, and this is something special. And so later when we ask for cooperation and we've given attention, that we have, I guess, social currency with each other in a more powerful way. I think this is something Maya likes to talk about, right? The social currency aspect of it from the science side.
Wendy, just before, because I want to hear from Maya on this, but what something you said just reminded me of that, of like this, when it's almost that moment of connection is so powerful, doesn't matter how long it is. And that kind of triggered something in me, that the other thing that really gets me is when you're talking to somebody and they're looking over your shoulder because they're the kind of person where they just want to, they're looking for their next person that they're going to talk to, or you're not as important to them. So they're listening, but they're looking through you. And there's, I don't know what that's called, but they don't make a connection. It's not being awkward. They're very sort of, they're social gregarious and social butterflies almost, but I find it really rude. And then I look at myself and I go, well, sometimes that's what I do with my dog, how rude it is, because I must give myself time when I come back and she's so excited to see me and I'm so excited to see her. We need to have that connection first before then I can move on to my next thing that is so pressing in that time. But I need to stop myself in order to be able to go, hey, got you. Thanks so much for, being excited. I love you too so much. Now I've got to go and do that. Do whatever I need to do. Maya.
Yeah, I love that. And I know this is going to sound like bigger than dogs, but I really think at least it's helpful for me to remember, like when I was thinking about connection, I'm thinking that an attention, like attending to what's important to your dog, like what you were just talking about, that moment where you're coming inside and you needing to stop yourself, is that being attuned is almost the inverse of power. Like, so when we have a lot of power, we're not necessarily attuned with those we have power over, but those who are on the lower side of that relationship are often really in tune with us, what we're doing and what our moods are. They're really good students of what our body movements are like. That's true for children. It certainly was true I bet many of us can remember this as a child, really studying the adults on whom we depended, even though they may not have noticed everything that was going on with us, right? And I think that happens for our dogs too. So I make decisions about my dog when he can stop to sniff, for instance, on a walk. And those are my decisions. I can give them back to him, but they're my decisions. That's not all bad. I'm not sure that he would make all the right decisions that would keep him safe or keep me safe. But I do think that because of that power imbalance, I have to really work, like you were saying, Vic, I have to really work to stop, to slow down, to attend to him and to connect to him in a way that maybe he doesn't have to work that hard to do that for me because of our imbalance and our social positions.
That interesting you say that, Maya, because when I'm speaking to these people that kind of look through you, it makes me feel disempowered. It makes me feel less relevant, that there is somebody more important that they have to speak to. And they'll give you a little time and then they're off. And it's very disconcerting. And I mean, I've even remember my parents having drinks parties and I would take around the food and, pour the drinks, and that was okay because at least I could move around. I was the waitress. And then when I did that, I was a waitress as well, trying to get some money for school. And that was my other jobs that I would do on a Saturday and a Sunday. And that was great. And now I actually use that because I really hate drinks parties and that kind of social setting. That I always taught my daughter, if you feel really uncomfortable, go grab a plate of food and take it around to everybody. And that means that you have an excuse to move off if you want. You can have an excuse to talk if you want, or take around a bottle of wine and everybody will be your friend. Maybe I'm kind of recalling a lot of moments in my past where I felt disempowered. But I think you're right. It's just really makes you feel uncomfortable. Ali.
Yeah, I was going to talk too about it's not just outside as well, it's also inside. So I do this thing where I have a bunch of like little kid books that I read to my dog Klaus. And I use little kid books just because they're shorter. Like right now we're reading 5-minute stories with Bluey, the TV show, and Klaus loves it. Like he jumps up. So I lay on my bed with on my belly and I'm holding the book. And then he comes up and he puts his paws up and looks right at me in the book. And as I'm reading, he's looking at me, looking at the book, looking at me, looking at the book. And my parents saw this and they thought it was fascinating. They thought that he was really into the story. They thought he was looking at the pictures. They thought that he was really grasping storytelling. And what I tried to tell them was, I don't think necessarily that's what's happening. I think it's more that he's just engaged with me, and that it is one of the few times in the day that I truly am engaged into what he's doing. And I'm talking just to him, not to my husband, not to our other dogs, not listening to the TV, nothing else is on. And I'm just engaging with him. And I think about what percentage of the day does he actually get that? Where there's no TV on in the background, there's nothing else going on. It's just the two of us for 5 minutes, and that's it. And it seems kind of small, but on the other hand, we think of how often does that really happen?
Well, is it because we're multitasking all the time? I mean, we are a nation of multitaskers. And I know that with me, I know that I can be #scattered because I have so many things on my brain. I have so many things that I need to do, so many projects that need to be done, whether it's work or just life projects. It's a lot. Don't you think, Tara?
I do. And I think sometimes, our dogs are good examples to slow down a little bit too. Funny story, Dilly and I went to the park and we were out at the park. And, she's a young puppy, so she can't walk but so long. So we walked a little while. And then I went off to the grass area. And basically we laid in the grass together and we looked through the grass, and I was picking grass up and she started to dig. So I kind of dug with her. And then we were finding leaves together. And someone just kind of was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm just being a dog right now with my dog. I'm connecting on her level, doing the things that she wants to do." And it kind of was an educational moment at the park, to say, "Yes, I'm okay. We're okay. We're just connecting right now in a way that's for Dilly, not for me per se." So it was taking that step back from multitasking to kind of go to the bare necessities of what she would want in that moment.
And when you're connecting like that, that kind of gives her and you sort of a feeling of agency, right? Adding to making you feel more confidence and reducing frustration. I think we know that the behavior that we call bad, that we see so much in dogs and that we label as bad, is just frustration because they're trying to connect with us. They're trying to get us to understand how they feel, and we're not listening to them.
Correct. I mean, I know how we feel sometimes about sticks and stuff like that, but she had found a stick and I didn't like the looks of that particular stick. So I went off to find a better stick. And then because I gave it to her, it was like, this is a prize for mommy. And we kind of carried it together for a little while, because the stick that she had picked was covered in moss and I just didn't like the looks of it. I wanted something cleaner for the stick. So I think that, it's about her having some choice and agency, but also me being able to provide that and be kind of that finder of the good things. So it's that connection side of it. So and I always tell clients, get down and be a dog with your dog. It is actually kind of fun. and you do take a moment to not multitask and let your head clear. It's a great form of meditation.
Alexandra Horowitz, in her book Being a Dog, talks about how she truly go out and smell the trees. Go out and put your nose down and smell how the grass smells. Kind of get an idea of what it's like to be your dog. I think you're right, Tara. I think that this when a dog feels like it has more agency, then that confidence really does grow. And when they are being heard, that reduces frustration. Isn't that true with children, Wendy?
Right, absolutely. I love that example that Tara talks about, meeting them where they are. They talk about that with kids all the time. You don't always make them come to your level. You go to their level and start there where they are. And that's what you did in the park. But think about that child who's frustrated and desperately needs something from mommy, and mommy's busy on that phone. And so maybe they're getting hungry or they have to go potty or whatever it is. And their behavior can start to get tougher and tougher. And, next thing you know, they're looking like a tantrum, or they're bugging you and bugging you and bugging you. And it just really, they're trying to make a connection. And that, like Maya was saying about the power discrepancy, that we can give them such a gift of our attention because that allows a dialogue, and they can communicate their needs and give them that agency. It's true for kids, and we see it, you all are seeing it with dogs. It's powerful stuff.
But multitasking shouldn't be the enemy, should it? Because we all have to do it.
Yeah, totally. I maybe this is just maybe I feel called out here, but I am a horrible multitasker in the sense that I'm always multitasking. And I bet a lot of people who are listening to this are walking their dogs right now on the podcast. So I also do that. I also listen to things when I walk some of my dogs. And I think it's important I'll just make a pitch. I'll make my own pitch to say that you can make connections, like the kinds of connections that we've been talking about, in small bursts. Like Tara, what you just described with your puppy, stopping and spending a little bit, seeing what she sees, smelling what she smells, digging with her. I love that you dug with her. Those are things that you can intersperse with more shared or split attention. I don't think it has to be all or nothing. And it can be really helpful, I think, to make that connection, like make your moments of connection count for agency in order to sort of even things out a little bit. So like one thing I really love to do when I let my dogs out in the backyard, I maybe don't go out with them, but I'm standing near the back door. I love it when they're walking back up to the door, and I can open the door just at the moment that they would come in anyway. So that in a way, their moving up the steps caused the door to open. They had a little bit of control over what happened in their space. And the only way that can happen is if I'm attending to them, if I'm watching them and going, I see, and I anticipate what your next move would be if there wasn't a barrier in the way. So there are times, I think, where we can have that joint attention and we can sort of use it for agency, use it to make that connection, or use it to head off those louder moments. Like Wendy, you were talking about a child escalating. Hey, I need you. Hey, I need you. That can certainly happen at the back door with the dog too, right? If the door is shut, they might first start, if they see me through the glass, they might first start looking at me and trying other things. But if that doesn't work, that might devolve into whining or barking or pawing at the door. So having those moments of connection interspersed. So maybe you're not I'd love to spend my whole life just with my dog in the grass. But even if we can't hit that, even if we don't want to hit that, we can still be really judicious about making them world shakers by making the world move in a way that they need and want at the moment they need it.
Are you a dog trainer looking to take your knowledge and skills to the highest level? Or maybe you're a dog guardian, interested in figuring out whether your love of dogs can translate into more of a career than a hobby. Or are you already working in the pet industry, but recognize that you need to fill some gaps when it comes to how to manage dog behavior so that you can better serve your existing clients? No matter where you are on your journey, the Victoria Stilwell Academy has courses that can help you get to where you want to go. From our free Building Your Dog's Confidence starter course, to the powerful fundamentals of dog training and behavior course, all the way up to our flagship professional dog trainer course, we have options for every skill level and budget. All you have to do is be passionate about giving dogs the best lives possible. All of our courses are available online anywhere around the world 24/7. No gimmicky sales tactics where you need to act within a certain window to enroll. My amazing team at the Victoria Stilwell Academy understands that we need to be ready to serve you whenever the time is right for you to make the jump. Whether that means dipping your toes into our free courses or realizing your fullest professional dog training dream by enrolling in the dog trainer course. So, join the thousands of dog geeks like you that are a part of our amazing and supportive VSA family today. We have Academy specialists available to talk with you and figure out how we can help you reach your dog training goals, or you can enroll in a starter course for free right now. The Victoria Stilwell Academy. It's the future of dog training.
I love that, Maya. I feel like a lot of barking, or people complain about barking, seems to be one of the main complaints. It's just a lot of frustration on the dogs trying to be heard. Isn't that right, Ali?
Yeah, I think that a lot of dogs do a lot of different type of what we label as attention-seeking behaviors. But like, for example, our dog Vader will bark. He'll just stand in between us and the TV and start barking at us. And it'll just start as just staring, and it'll progress to barking. And if the barking doesn't work, he will go bang on something metallic, which I find interesting. It started as a water bowl, and then it turned into anything metallic or anything that makes noise. So he obviously wants to get our attention. And I think that maybe if we paid him more attention other times, maybe he would do it less. So that's one idea, is that if he's asking us like, hey, I really need your attention, or I need something right now. And, sometimes we'll take him out, we'll feed him, we'll water him, and he wants affection or something. He wants interaction. So I find that that's really interesting, is that's what he wants. And I think about when people come home, and I think about it from like a human standpoint, that if my husband walked in the door, said nothing to me, and went about his day and didn't acknowledge me, like that would be really weird. And so I kind of think about, right? I think about the same thing with dogs, of even if it's just a, hey bud, how was your day? While even if you're on the phone, or, you need to go get changed, or you're going somewhere else, but just even an acknowledgement, or like a quick little hello. I'm not saying we need to like sit down and gaze into our dog's eyes until we both perish, but just interacting with them in some way, and doing that 5-minute story read or 5-minute pet on the couch. And just, our dogs do best when we sit with them for just a bit on the couch and ask them about their day. And then we can get up and kind of go along with the rest of our day.
And we call this behavior, attention seeking, when, I know, Jamie, you've said that it actually can be connection seeking. If we kind of reframed it and looked at it from that viewpoint, it's like, oh my God, my dog's such an attention seeker. But actually, no, when you reframe it and make it, this is a connection seeker, that your dog is trying to get connection, then you go, oh, okay, I get it. And you're less mad about it. And I know, Laura, you have a dachshund, and they're kind of known to be the barkers of the dog world.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say, being an owner of a miniature dachshund, barking is something that regularly fills my life, especially when the doorbell goes. He loves when the doorbell goes. So now I've started trying to get that connection. I'll say, oh, thank you. And I'll get up, and now he knows, oh, I've done what I've needed to do. Mum knows there's someone at the door, and the barking stops. Or sometimes if the doorbell goes and he was asleep and I've already got up, he'll be like, oh, I don't need to bark now, actually. So, barking is just another way of communicating, isn't it? In doggy terms. It's getting that connection, and Yeah, especially with the small dogs.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
That's the
having a
only way they
chihuahua.
know. Best way they know how to connect with you is by using their voice.
And sometimes you have to think when they're so small and we're not looking them as much because they're so small and they can't meet our eyes a lot because they're so small. We're definitely going to hear their voices. I've thought that for a long time, that our dog, the little dogs, may be even bigger barkers because we actually don't pay them enough attention / we are not as connected because we don't have as much eye contact with them because they're so small. So one of the best ways to warn or to get that connection is by barking.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had previously I've had like a plumber come in to check something. I've had Cosmo in another room and he will be barking because he knows there's a strange man in the house. And then when I do let Cosmo out, the guy was like, "Oh my God, I thought you had like a German Shepherd in there or something." He was so loud. And I was like, "I know, I know."
And if you've got like a multi-dog household, which I know you do, Ali, but if you have a multi-dog household, but you have dogs with different needs for connection, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I was actually just about to comment on what Kent said in the comments of that his Chow is a bit more aloof and, just kind of wants to be maybe in the same room as him. And I think Klaus is very much like that. Whereas my husband's Doodles, notice how I say husband's Doodles. I still can't quite say my Doodles, drop my standards of my standard poodle. But my husband's Doodles need to be basically inside of you. They like to crawl up on you and be right next to you. Whereas my standard poodle Klaus likes to be near you on the couch, but not on top of you. And that's his form of connection, is interacting with me, training, learning new things, and maybe talking to him, but also just being in the same room or just being nearby. And I think about that as well, of if I've been out with friends the last couple nights, sometimes I'll just have a night in with just me and Klaus. So just thinking, obviously my husband's there too, but just thinking about the time that we spend with them. So I do like that there is the notion that not all dogs need to, again, are not golden retrievers where you need to hold their paw and stare longingly into their eyes. But just being nearby can be that connection they're seeking.
I would like to move on now then to how do we make connections? What are the best ways we can make connections with our dogs? Anybody want to jump in and give us some ideas of how they connect? I know that I like to connect with Jasmine. One of the things that she loves she loves when I go to bed. And because when I go to bed, it means she gets up on the bed and that's her for the night. Trouble is, she starts looking at me at around 7 o'clock in the evening and does that stare and walks to the end of the landing and goes, "Okay, it's time." And I'm like, "Kid, it's not time. It's probably about another 3 to 4 hours before we go to bed." But that's our connection time. But we also have connection time when I'm working and I go sit on the sofa, and she likes to be like a typical Chihuahua on the back of the sofa. And that's it. Kind of the sofa's up against a window, so she's very safe on the back there. But our time for connection is that. And she feels at peace. I always know when she's at peace because she starts grooming herself. And I'm just doing my work. And then I kind of look back at her and she looks at me. And we don't have to be holding paws all the time. We don't have to be touching her. But she is completely at peace. And so am I. That's kind of one of our connection times. What about anybody else? Maya?
Yeah, I love that. And I'm really glad that I want to be the third in here to say that connection doesn't have to be super intense, staring at one another or touching one another. And that actually for many dogs, that may not feel much like connection at all, or it may not be their preferred kind of connection. Physical touch might matter. How you touch them and who you are might matter. And some dogs might prefer to just be on the couch with you or go upstairs with you. The first thing that I think is that you have to notice what your dog likes. What is your dog choosing? to do. And I'm just going to go back to little Dilly and Tara again. You're just getting to know Dilly because she's a puppy. She's brand new to the world. So she's brand new to you. And when you meet a new dog, or when you're trying to reconnect with a dog that you have lived with, notice, what are they choosing to do? And I swear I have blown board and trained dogs' minds and foster dogs' minds by doing it with them. I mean, they look at the bottom of this tree and you kind of look at it too. Or they want to stop at this corner and you stop before they do and check it out. Or they're digging in this thing, attending to this thing, and you get one of your own. Sometimes they don't want to share the one they have, but I might pick up another stick and leave them with theirs. So there are ways, I think, that we first need to get to know the dogs in our care and as individuals and join them for some of their favorite activities.
I love that. We have Louise says, I have one of those hold my paw and gaze lovingly into my eyes golden retrievers. Okay, I had a Labrador that was like that, our Sadie. Our connection time is when I get in from work. I have 30 minutes of paw holding and belly rubbing. After dinner is when my golden girl then wants her connection time and lays on me and loves it when I blow over her ear. I so love that. Jillian says, when I go to bed, my collie likes to curl up on the bottom of the bed at my feet. He stays there most of the night, and 90% of the time, he'll make sure he's touching my legs. Then Jenny says, my Gray at some point in the evening sits up in her bed and stares intently at me. That is my cue for snuggle time. I get down on the floor and snuggle and stroke her for a few minutes, and she then goes back to sleep, and I can go back to the armchair. Isn't that just beautiful? I'm feeling very calm. And but here we have Tavish from Kent. The Westie is addicted. He's got a Westie vocabulary of squeals and yowls, and he has a lot to say. Totally engaged to communicate and try anything. Loves his toys. Can't do enough to please. So, I mean, there's just like a smorgasbord of just fabulous stories here of the ways that dogs connect with people. But Ali, are there some more things that we can do to build connections?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just doing kind of what Tara's doing right now with her puppy, which is figuring out what it is they like and how they like to communicate. So we talk at Positively a lot about two-way communication and trying to figure out, not only are we talking to our dogs, giving them cues, like Maya said, offering them different consequences, like opening the door when they approach it, but also listening to them. So watching their dog body language, looking to see when they do something and something happens afterwards, what is it? And is there anything we can do to help? So I have 3 dogs now. See, I said it that time. I have 3 dogs.
Well done.
My standard poodle really does like connection in the sense of learning. So he wants to learn something new. He wants to show off all of his tricks. He wants to show off the different things that he knows and interact with me and recall the things that he's learned. He just seems to get so excited. And I do this when playing with toys with him outside or playing fetch. We do it inside. And we use puzzle toys and things. So that's his jam, is really interacting with me and showing off what he's learned and learning more. Whereas my golden mix is about that staring and holding. And he just wants to be held. He wants you to rub his ears. He wants you to tell him what a beautiful noodle he is. And then our other boy, Vader, just wants to have like something touching you, but not, just one part of you. But then if he gets upset, he has big feelings. He needs to be held, even though it doesn't seem like it at the time. He's very loud, but he does just want to be held and told that it's going to be okay. So I think it is pretty interesting how the 3 of them need different things at different times and how they communicate those needs. So I encourage anyone to just sit back and watch what your dog needs. If your dog does have big feelings, so if they're barking out the window, what do they do afterwards? Or what do they like to do when they're nice and calm? So is it they like to chew on something? So perhaps you could give them something to chew on. Perhaps you could read them a book. Perhaps you could get them, away and do something else and just have those nice calm pets. I think that can be something that we can all do. It's just because that gives what both of us oxytocin, is giving pets and just changing our brain chemistry together. And Klaus and I actually used to meditate together. So, and what I mean by that is that I used to meditate And every time it seemed I would do yoga or meditate, he would come closer to me. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's something that he likes my breathing or whatever, he wants to be closer to me. But normally he's a bit more aloof, but I always thought that that was pretty interesting.
I love that. What I was going to say was, because Ali mentioned learning, Cosmo just loves trading. I think he gets that connection from positive training. What I say to him now, do you want to do some training? And his head goes up, his tail starts wagging, because he knows he gets, not only does he get the yummy treats, but he also gets that one-on-one connection with me. And he gets lots of praise when we just do like silly little training tricks and stuff. And he just loves it, just seeing him in his little zone. I love it.
Yeah, and that's it. I think, Maya, you had said we really learn what your dog wants or what your dog needs or what your dog really, really likes. And then maybe even if you don't have time or it's not the right time and your dog is, I don't know, barks at a certain time, then what you said, Ali, about what I really like about that is taking something that, what does your dog do after the barking? Or what does your dog do when your dog is in a calmer state? Then maybe being able to introduce that so that that dog doesn't need to get your attention or have that connection, or doesn't get to the point where your dog is frustrated so that it really starts barking. Am I making sense of that, Maya?
Yeah, totally. And I think we can end up, when we're disconnected, surprised by really loud reactions from our dogs because we didn't see the buildup, right? We didn't see the things beforehand. And if we stay disconnected, or if we're so triggered by it, we may not notice what you said, Ali, which is, well, what did he get for that? What did he need from that? What was the consequence of that? So even if we're surprised, we can pay attention and say, aha, what did that big reaction get? And how could I get it to him earlier, sooner, not be so late this next time, because he's depending on me. I'm thinking especially, if he's on a walk with you, or if he's out in a space, a human space that he shares with other humans or dogs, he's depending on you, especially if he's on lead, right? He can't move without you allowing him to do it. So I think we can use connection as a way to prevent and also to start to heal some of the things that happen, our dogs' behaviors that are the most distressing to us and maybe are distressing to them. I had a preschool teacher once say, make a connection before you give a direction. And I have shared that with lots and lots and lots of dog training clients, because I think oftentimes we are directing our dogs, hey, look at me, hey, touch, hey, sit, hey, come over here, before we've actually made that connection with them. So we need a connection before we can give them any direction. And I hope that we do that with people that we love and respect too, right? I would like a connection before somebody barks an order at me. It doesn't feel like guidance if you haven't been connected before they start telling you what to do. But in order to do that, I do think you have to practice making connections. So especially if your attention has wandered. So figuring out what your dog likes, for me, is the way that I might do that. I might say, all right, we're sniffing over here. How can I join you and joint attention? How can we do it together? And that's one way that we can start to practice checking in with one another so that we can make that connection. And I can give direction if needed.
And making that connection, really being attuned to our dogs, is also vital, because then we can learn more about our dogs. For example, Wendy, if our dogs are in pain or if they don't feel well, if something is up with them, something that's maybe not normal, or the normal behavior that we see, if we're more connected to our dogs, we can see things like that more easily.
Absolutely. And it's thinking about the connection in a mutual way. And where we're being responsive. So not just connection because I say, oh, I'm here, we're doing things my way. But if we're checking in periodically and we're sort of just taking the pulse almost of the situation, and we can notice the finer, smaller, body language hints that tell us something is up with the dog. And there are times where we become so connected, we can't even always articulate how we know. but we just know there's something off. And maybe they respond a beat later to the usual things that make them happy. Maybe they just don't get up off the floor as quickly. And especially with the older dogs, like, Tiffany is facing, that connection is really, we can support them so well throughout the different stages if we are checking in and working on our attunement and our mindful awareness, for that connection.
Especially important for elderly dogs. I have an elderly dog too, as well as you, Tiffany. How important is connection for you with your elderly one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think really, to sort of bring this home in a way, I just think about, in my mind, why did you bring a dog into your home, or any pet for that matter? I know I have kitty cats at home. I know we have plenty of listeners who have different different pets, but it's, why did you choose to bring them into your home and share your life with them? And thinking from the moment Tara brought her little puppy Dilly home, and all the experiences she wanted to have with her, and the bond she wanted to form with her, and through adolescence when they drive us crazy, but still trying to picture where their brain might be and try to remember how we were as an adolescent, getting through that together and trying to find the humor in it, enjoying all of the fruits of your training labor with your adult dog, who just has that amazing interaction with you, and you kind of know what each other, is thinking before you even think it. And then into their senior years, which I know several of us are right now with our dogs and pets. It's just, why did you want to share your life with them? And for everybody, they might have a slightly different answer, but connection is definitely in there somewhere. Connection and bonding and communication, just like you want to share your life, if you choose to share your life with any other human, it's that connection that you form. So for me, it's no different with our dogs. And I think it's a really amazing blessing that they give us, to be able to show us how to slow down and how to see the world from a different perspective. As everybody here has mentioned, being able to go over and sniff something, being able to go over and dig something. When would we do that if we weren't with our dogs? But they give us the opportunity to do that. And I just think that's an amazing gift that they give us.
They don't have a lot of time on this planet. Unfortunately, I wish our dogs could live longer than they do. And my dog is 14 years old. And, I'm always worried that how long does she have with me? But connection is so important. And I have this thing called holding the moment. And sometimes I just have to stop and hold the moment. And usually it's moments that mean a lot to me. And I would hold the moment a lot when I was with my daughter. And I would always say, okay, one day she's going to go off to college and I'm going to be an empty nester. So I would really make sure that I would hold the moment at times and be as present as I could. But again, being a working mom, traveling a lot, work took over. And so, now I look back on it and I go, I was and I am a really good mom, but I wish I had more time with her. I wish I could go back and have a bit more time with her and been even more present than I was. And so that's what I would say is, now having an empty nester, and now, she's off and she's at college, but in the summertime now she's got a job away, and I miss her. I really miss her. I'm sort of walking around the house, even though she's been out of the house for 2 years, but I'm walking around the house just like miserable, like a real Mizzy Moo, because I miss her. And I am thankful, though, for the connection I had, but I wish that I had had more. And so we don't want to regret. And of course, you're busy. There's a lot of things that you need to do, but do make time sometimes. Do hold the moment sometimes. Be present and make those connections. People are going to love you for it, but your dogs are going to love you too. I think this was such a lovely podcast, and I hope that you have enjoyed listening to it. Thank you so much for all of your comments. You're right. The older you get, the more you are going to hold the moment. You're going to be rushing around less, and you're going to be probably a bit reflective, and you're going to look back. I know I'm very sentimental. I like to look back. I lost my mum last year, so I'm doing a lot of looking back at her letters and her life. And again, I wish I had more connection with her. But as long as you take some time, then you'll have those memories. And also, you know, our dogs, I think you're right, Tiffany, it's all about bonding. And when you bond with your dogs, then they don't maybe have to roar at us to get our attention or to get that connection. Thanks, everybody. This is just, again, a fabulous podcast. I love it when the team are on because you get so many different perspectives. Thanks again for everybody who's joined us on Zoom. And we will see you all soon. And hopefully all of you on the podcast, well, we've got some amazing guests coming up as well. So we will be taking a few weeks break for the summertime, but we will be back. And so for all of you, I hope that you have a great summer, and we will be back in a few weeks. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Victoria Stilwell's Positively podcast. For Victoria's online dog training courses, more information, and helpful dog training tips, visit Victoria's official website at positively.com. Get connected on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media as Victoria Stilwell, and follow her on Twitter at Victoria S. Learn to become a professional dog trainer with the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. And be sure to tune in next time as Victoria helps you and your dog live your best life together, positively.